Hi, it's Amelia Lee here, the Undercover Architect. And in this video, I'm going to be answering a question that I have from a member of the UA community named Julie. And so I'll just read it. She says, the question I need help with is, how do I initiate the start of the conversation? So Julie and her husband are at the point where they're trying to determine whether they're going to knock down and rebuild their home or they're going to renovate and extend it. And so she's just in that process of understanding, talking to designers and builders and other specialists to help figure out how to move forward on this project. And she says, this is the part I'm most nervous about. Is it as simple as picking up the phone and speaking to an architect or design consultant or builder with design services and saying, hi, can you give me a quote? Do I go guns blazing and let them know our budget and ask what they can do with that? Or is that a stupid question to ask these professionals? We know what we want, we have the idea, and we even have a fixed price we can afford, she's added, before we have to start eating baked beans until the kids are out of the house. I just don't want to sound like a fool when I first speak to someone, so how do I best initiate that very first conversation? I just loved getting this email because this is a question that I hear from so many homeowners, just not knowing where to start and worrying that they'll look silly in the process of trying to get going on their project. Now, my first piece of advice to you is don't worry about looking silly. I know that that's easier said than done. The challenge is, though, you've most likely never built or renovate a home before. Most people in their life maybe do one, possibly two projects. So you're not supposed to know what you're doing. You're not supposed to know all the answers. You don't even know what you don't know, and you don't even necessarily know the questions to ask to find out what you should know. So you are in the point where you actually should be relying on the people that do this for a day job, the people that do this every day, to give you the answers that you need and to fill the gaps on the knowledge that you don't even know that you need yet. So that would be, would be my first piece of advice. Don't worry about what you're going to look like. If I have a potential client call me and say, look, I don't know what we should be doing. I don't know where we should be looking. I don't know what we should be finding out. That's my signal to meet them where their needs are. That as a professional to help them, I then know the level of support and advice and guidance that they need, because it helps me fill the gaps of where they're at in their story and their journey. It's also a really awesome filter to find really good people. If you are finding that you're calling somebody and they're treating you like an idiot and they're treating you like it's information that you should know, and it's, or they're acting arrogant in the way that they're providing you with this advice, it's a pretty good signal to say thanks, but no thanks. Because the best kinds of professionals, when you say, I really don't know what I'm doing, they'll go, of course you don't, and I'm here to help, So that's the process. And, if you feel a bit silly, just preface it with something to kind of prepare them. If I'm ever going to ask a question of something that I feel I should know the answer to, or I feel a little bit silly asking, I just say, look, this may sound a little bit silly, or this may sound like something I should know the answer to, and it just prepares them for the fact that that's coming. And it's a really good device to sort of help people, then meet you and work with you. You're wanting to find some people to partner you in this. So, this is really a journey that you do together, and they support and guide you in you kind of reaching the outcome and getting the information that you need. So that's my first piece of advice. Do not worry about looking foolish or silly, okay? Second piece of advice is the quality of advice that you receive will be dependent on the expertise and experience of whoever you're asking. And your ability to trust the advice that they give you will also be dependent on how much you value their experience and expertise, okay? So this is the thing. Don't ask people who don't have training to give you advice on things they don't have training for. And don't ask people advice that you won't listen to what they have to say anyway, because you don't really know that they've got any background to offer you any kind of goodness. It's important that you do some homework before you kind of start picking up the phone to speak to people. And this is a process of you actually just researching, who's doing work in your area or who's doing work along the lines of the type of project that you want to do. I suspect that you're probably already having a look around your area. You might be, even if you're looking at a new home, you might be visiting display villages. You're starting to get a feel of the kinds of businesses and professionals that do the type of work that you are wanting for your project. And so, that's collecting information about who's going to be kind of at the level that you're wanting to work at. It's really important that you find people to work with that are like-minded with you, that understand your specific problem and your specific needs. It's not a lot of point if you've got $150,000 to spend on a renovation to call the architect that only ever does $1 million glass, stainless steel, contemporary modern homes, if it's not in line with kind of what you're wanting to deliver for your project. So, and the same thing with builders. Builders will generally do certain types of projects. If it's not in line with what you're sort of envisaging for yours, then chances are that they're probably not going to be a good fit for you. Ask around for recommendations, do some homework, and then start picking up the phone, and then don't worry about looking like a fool. My third piece of advice is around budget. And so Julie asked the question of whether she should actually tell these people she's speaking to about her budget. And I really get this because, when you walk into an open inspection to look at a house that you might want to buy, you never tell the real estate agent how much you want to spend, how much you've got to spend, because, you just lose all competitive edge. And any leverage that you might have. So at the end of the day, though, the budget's actually an important piece of the puzzle and an important piece of the brief in terms of what your project's going to be. So it also helps the people that are giving you advice to kind of know how that advice is to be shaped. If a client picks up the phone to me and says, I've got X amount to spend on a new build, I immediately know what options are available to them based on how much they've got to spend. And the same thing with a renovation. I can look at their house, what it's like now and what they want to do with it, and know how realistic the gap is between those two things based on how much money they've got. So it's important for you to get some quality advice that is actually applicable for you, to be able to talk to people about your budget. That being said, you need to have some buffer in it. So I do believe that you kind of, tell people a range, not necessarily, the maximum amount we possibly can get access to is, $285,000. And that's all the money we'll ever have. That's not kind of the conversation to have. It's more like, look, our budget's in the range of mid 200s. Or you might have, $600,000 or $700,000 to do a really large renovation on your home. You just sort of say, oh, look, we've got between $600,000 and $700,000. Also identify whether that budget needs to cover absolutely everything. The thing that you need to understand is when you talk about budgets to a lot of builders or consultants, they'll just hear construction budget. They won't necessarily know whether you've got to cover all of your consultant fees, all of your application fees, your inspection fees, all the costs that you actually don't know you're going to have yet, whether that's all got to come out of that same bucket of money. So, I would just say, look, we've got, we've got around the mid 200 range, and that's got to cover everything. And then they know how to kind of much to eke out of it. And then that gives them a construction budget, and then that helps them give you valuable advice. So that's my 3 tips to answer this question. So I'll just go through them again. All right. So the first, in terms of how do you initiate that first conversation, don't worry about looking like a fool or looking silly. It's a really good filter, and it will help you get really good information because the people you speak to will understand where they need to meet your needs. Secondly was do your homework before you just start picking up the phone, and look for similar projects, look for similar professionals. The one thing I forgot to mention was ask them what kind of questions you should be asking. Ask them to lead you. What do they see that you need to be doing next? They're the expert. Ask them. Look, what should we be looking at? What should we be doing? What should be our next moves? Because you'll get some good information that way as well. And then the third thing was in terms of speaking about your budget. Yes, speak about it, but speak about it generally, and just speak about it a bit under kind of where your maximum is. If the maximum is all you've ever got to spend, then just eke some contingency out of it. Make sure too that you advise whether it has to cover everything or it's just a construction budget. Okay, Julie, that was my answer. Thanks again for sending me an email. I know that a lot of homeowners struggle with that where to start kind of process. So I really hope that a lot of you have found this useful. Add a comment below if you have, and if you have a question at all, I can't answer all of them, but I'm always looking for information to put on the blog that you find super useful. So please just shoot me an email at amelia@undercoverarchitect.com. Remember, there's heaps of great and free information here on the Undercover Architect blog to help you get started in your project. Whether you're designing, building, or renovating, there'll be a blog here to help you know what things to focus on first, what to prioritize, and what to do in order to make sure that you get a great outcome for your home. I'm a big believer that when you get informed, you get it right. And my mission is to help you create a home that just makes your life better. Thanks very much for being here, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.